you very much for coming. My name is Leslie Walker, and I am the Executive Director of Prisoners Legal Services. I am very happy to have all of you here. A special thanks to the esteemed panel that has agreed to join me today. And for members of the legislature that are here, if you are a member of the legislature, would you please raise your hand or rise so that we can thank you formally? Please stand up so we can all thank you for coming. The legislature and the governor are certainly our audience, so having people in attendance is great, but the media, I know, will get the word out to those audiences that need to make a three-strikes bill that can work for the Commonwealth. Currently, Massachusetts, there are several of us speaking, so we're going to talk really fast and not for very long, if at all possible.
Amen. Amen.
Reverend Rivers gave me some very good advice, and I've already blown it by starting late, but we were waiting for a few folks who got stuck in the big crowds out front. I'm going to talk about current overcrowding, a little bit about the bill, and some concerns we have. Currently, Massachusetts state prisons and counties are overcrowded without a three-strikes bill. The state prison system is on average 143% of capacity. The counties are even worse, with a high of 372% of capacity, and several other county facilities ranging between 224% and 255%. The Middlesex County Jail houses 361 prisoners in a facility that was built for 161. Prisoners sleep on the floor every night and in the chapel. The Norfolk County Jail, Middlesex, and Norfolk are two of the best-run facilities in the state. Even in Norfolk County, however, there are 4 men locked in a cell 20 hours a day, including 17-year-olds. And there's a former gym that houses 65 prisoners, 3 deep and very small beds that go 6 long. 3 high and 6 long. It looks exactly like the California prison system. The numbers can't quite put a face on what happens behind those walls. This level of overcrowding existed before the governor fired the parole board last winter. So this has only been worse. And the Department of Correction reports there's been a 56% drop in parole releases since the governor appointed the new parole board. The voting rate is one thing. Voting yes for parole is at 44% for state prisoners, but 56% less people are getting out. There were no positive life for parole votes in 2011. That rate is 0. Many legislators did not vote for the bill in the House, and could you please stand if you did not vote for the bill in the House? Representative Brownson.
Good man. Good man.
Many who did vote for the bill feel very badly. They were misinformed. They were told in the Senate that the cost would be neutral. This is a cost-neutral bill. They were told in the House that only 3 or 4 people would be affected. Unfortunately, that information was woefully inadequate and underestimates the impact we fear, all of us on this dais fear, would happen. Well, it's true the district attorneys have not used this bill very extensively in the past. That's because the current habitual offender bill is a lousy bill from a DA's perspective. The new bills, however, the House and Senate bills, if I was a DA, I would be dancing in the streets. It kicks the door open in 2 major ways. It significantly increases the number of people that would be eligible for 3 strikes for habitual offender sentencing, and it exponentially increases the length of time they were served. On the high end, when the bill is in full effect, we estimate that up to 2,500 new people could be incarcerated. At $46,000 a year, that's over $100 million, plus the $100,000 a year cost of medical treatment for the elderly. The last time there was a facility built in Massachusetts, it was the Franklin County Jail, and that was $230,000 per bed. So those are construction costs in addition to the housing costs. Who will go to prison under these bills? People like James. James, who grew up in DCF custody as a foster child, aged out, and was living in a shelter. He saw some change inside of an open car door. Didn't break in, merely opening the door and taking that change is a breaking in the law. That's strike number 1 for James. Number 2, he pled guilty to that and was sentenced to the County House of Correction for a short time. Since he was in the County House of Correction, he lost his bed in a shelter and was on the street. At 2 in the morning, he was meeting with a friend, shook that friend's hand, and moved on. This is what happens when you live on the street. The police officer saw the handshake and assumed drugs were exchanged. Pat frisked James, no drugs were found, but a knife was found. James had that knife, living on the streets to protect himself. Strike number 2. After many years of homelessness, James began to use heroin as his mother had before him. Without money and experiencing the symptoms of withdrawal, James went into a 7-Eleven, pretended he had a gun in his pocket, asked the clerk for $50 for money, and got $50 and left. Strike number 3. At 25 years old, James will be sent to prison for the rest of his natural life without the possibility of parole. These are the real people that will be affected if either of these bills pass as written right now. In addition to the costs of imprisonment, little is spent on treatment. The department only spends 2.4% of its budget on treatment, despite the fact that 80% of people entering prison are substance abusers and 25% of them are mentally ill. Tough on crime policies have failed. I think some of the legislature fear the electorate doesn't want to have soft on crime or doesn't want to have smart on crime. The electorate is ahead of the legislature, as it often is in many states. The electorate does not want to have a 44% recidivism rate. That's what tough on crime has gotten us. The repeat offender rate in 10 years has gone from 39% to 44%. The electorate doesn't want its tax dollars spent on people that are going to be repeating. They want those people treated and trained before they're released. But now I have a pleasure of introducing Charles Ogletree, professor at Harvard Law School and the director of the Charles Hamilton Houston Institute.